Okay, okay. I'll do the intro. I'll do the intro. Hello and welcome, I'm Liam the Music Reviewer, and today we're going to be talking about The Money Store, the album of Death Grips that just kind of really put them on the map. It was the follow-up to their experimental, industrial, batshit crazy, venomous mixtape, Ex-Military, and it is constantly brought up in discussions about the best records of the 2010s, and for good reason. I would love to have it with like a hot take saying that it's not as good as people make it out to be, but I just think it's a really remarkable album. This is gonna be just me ranking the tracks bit by bit, from least favourite to my all-time favourite from the album. If it's on the album, if it's one of the 13 tracks available, then yeah, it's up for contention. If you aren't a big fan of Death Grips, in terms of the fact that you don't know that much about them, I had a big discography ranked video, which is a bit of kind of like, should give you some information if you're not too kind of savvy about them, and also let you know where I think the Money Store ranks in their discography. Might be a hot take, might not be. But yeah, sorry about the presentation. I was gonna have a big black and white tapestry, but it got lost in the post along with my gimp suit, so we shouldn't dwell on that, and let's just get started right away. While it's the run of the Money Store family, I don't think Punkway is like the Scrappy Doo or anything like that. If anything, it's more like Goro from Mortal Kombat with multiple arms, and just juggling all these different elements and just making a mostly satisfying dish. And I say mostly satisfying because for a video like this, I really do need to nitpick. I need to just find the tiniest little flaw. And if anything, I just wish this song started a bit faster, even just like a few seconds, because I'm just slavering for that kind of like Zubat accelerated vocals and just the distortion riddled drums. I'm just slavering for it. I just want to plunge my face right into it. That being said though, I do like this song, and it's also home to kind of like a really good usage, as it is throughout, the Saharan cell phone samples that, if you don't know, come from just cell phone memory cards that were found in the African desert. It's just such a fascinating concept to find these, just kind of like this old information, old data, and utilising it in a way that it becomes kind of like the foundation for this album that is very much kind of new age and forward thinking. I just thought it was like a really good move, and it does make pretty much every song that little bit better. Just kind of it kind of like it's like a running motif that I think is always used quite well. Now, this album is quite well known for kind of like pushing hip hop forward. Some people will argue with that. People kind of always bring up Yeezus when it comes to the Money Store and say that Kanye nicked some ideas from that. That's obviously up for debate. Other people say that both Death Grips and Kanye were basically just doing what MIA was doing just a few years prior. But regardless, I still think this song is pretty fascinating. Again, we're going to talk about the sampling on here, and I was kind of stubborn about this and thought that the drumming on here was kind of Zach Hill's drumming. He did a lot of math rock, obviously, so it wouldn't surprise me for him to be this impressive. But it is just another one of the Saharan cell phone samples, so the fact that they're able to kind of like incorporate them in all these different ways, how they're not just kind of a problem I have with the powers that be is just that the B-Work samples, I don't think, can sometimes be a bit gimmicky, whereas here I think this isn't so much a gimmick, it is just like just a really multifaceted element that is executed so well, and the same goes here. That being said though, there's something kind of ingenious about how the most kind of raw, kind of instrumentally track on the Money Store also happens to be just one of Death Grips' most vile songs, one of the most violent, brutal ones that they've ever put out. But even though it is low on this list, I still have to say that I do have like a fondness for it. There's especially some excerpts that just kind of like stand out to me as like some of my favourite MC Ride lines. A particular favourite being, "Cut your brainstem as my combat boot grinds your head to the cadence of this death stomping mew." It just kind of paints this really nice picture, or well, it nicely paints this horrible picture of just MC Ride leading these like elite beat agents, militia sort of thing, just how they will just cross the line completely. They'll just be over the top violent, but the way that it's kind of worded is just kind of there's some sort of beauty to it, and that could be said about a lot of Death Grip stuff, just how it's beautiful in just the most kind of like atypical manner. Knock made to off every last bitch on this planet, and come to bad them brains till them neck bones crack. Just really flesh out this ill intent to a worrying degree. So this song definitely kind of like executes its intention very well. It would be very easy for me to kind of like chime in with a Chris Stuckman-esque. I grew up with The Fever, I had a great childhood with it, but really the only reason that The Fever is this low on the list is just because I've listened to it far too much out with the context of the album, overplayed it a wee bit. I still like it though. I still find it a highlight because it was the first sing. I don't know if it was the first single, but it was the first song, the first Death Grip song that I heard. So I've got that sort of nostalgia for it in a sense. And there's still all those like really nice quirks that just that trademark Death Grip's charm, whether that be like the Casio computer effect that's used, or just that kind of like machinery sound that almost feels like you're at a rave in some warehouse, like a Morrison's or Asda warehouse, where like they're using the baler or whatever, while you're just kind of like absolutely losing your mind. And while I've said what I have about how I've kind of overplayed it a little bit, I still have that admiration for this song for being able to kind of carry a narrative while being kind of like just surrounded by all this noisiness, which would be something we'll get into in a few minutes time as well. Well, it can be easy for MC Ride's just genius kind of lyricism and that to kind of be underappreciated due to Zach and Andy's craftsmanship instrumentally. I think Double Helix is a point where his intentions and his mindset is just left out. It's absolutely bare, and you can tell what he's aiming for here. Make It Bloody is obviously kind of like just one of many lines that are intended to kind of create this picture of how Death Grips make their music, and the whole song is essentially that. There's just it almost feels like they're having a bit of a laugh as well, like they think they're kind of like explaining how they do it, but they're also kind of like laughing at the notion that you could ever know what an artist's like pure intentions are, and what they decide to kind of leave out and leave in. And there's also just this really great line where I like it a lot for how much it packs in, but I just love it for how cool it is. At the start of the first verse, where MC Ride goes banging, bones on rolling, jungle rotting, chicken skeleton, system bombing, it just sounds so good, like to the ears. Like it makes sense that all these words that shouldn't usually get put together just sounded appealing as they do. I don't really know, but I know that I like it. Also really dig that bell toll effect. It's just so ominous. It starts off as like the soul factor that you're kind of like meant to kind of like latch onto, and then just how it kind of like just changes about during the song. It's probably one of my favourite bits of the entire track for me. The intro to The Money Store, Get Caught, really ensures that this album is going to be like nothing you've heard before, and even if this is your first rodeo with like an industrial experimental hip hop album, MC Ride and Co. just they're not going to take it easy on you. Like I mentioned a while back, Death Grips they're really good at being able to marry all these different sensibilities in a way that a listener could absolutely just be listening to this song just for the composition. They could be listening to the synth, which is just it is just in your face, almost as in your face as MC Ride is, and also just like the sparse drumming as well. They could just be listening to it with that intent, and they will be enjoying themselves a great deal. On the other hand though, it's also just very easy to find a great deal of enjoyment and entertainment when you're just listening to the narrative that MC Ride's weaving on this, talking about a getaway car chase in the first verse, and then essentially just telling this story just in reverse, and just how he's just got this sort of like ominousness to him, just this evil nature, and it is just so fascinating to listen to. That reverse storytelling could eventually have led to Damn Collector's Edition, for better or worse, probably worse.
Oh my God.
the album's shortest cut, and as far as I'm aware, one of the only songs without any sampling, as far as I'm aware anyway. But if you were under any sort of like notion that Death Grips were only good when it came to using this sort of plunderphonics trait, you would be wrong, and this song is like definitive proof that you probably are. I've also given a lot of praise to MC Ride so far in this video, and I also have given some praise to Zack and Andy as well, but this is definitely a song where the compositions, the craftsmanship, and just the attention to detail that Zack and Andy have to their music making just is shown. It's barren, and I was gonna make some sort of thing like they were wearing their heart on their sleeve that would easily tie in to the fact the drum beat at the start of this, like, it not only sounds like a heartbeat, but just it feels like one. Like, it kind of just like manages to like creep into your ears and like get into your head and make you kind of become sort of hyper aware of it. And I've always found that kind of unsettling, but at the same time I'm just astounded that a song was able to do that for me, which again is one of like the multiple reasons why I love this album. But I've always been taken aback by just how that black magic has been able to be conjured on an album. And there's also like the kind of like the Ascent and Sirens as well that tie into the dodginess of MC Ride's antics. Like, it is just a very tight song. So I'm immediately going back on my Ride praise here, sorry. But so far, when it came to talking about him, I've usually mentioned just his lines, just his impressive poeticism, as it were. But I do think a great deal has to be said about just his performance, because just the way he delivers a line can be almost as important as the words he decides to use. And I think that's especially true on the hook for The Cage, because it's almost like a very kind of like a very still delivery at first, and then a fiery rebuttal, and it's just this like outlandish, like just this crazy, just like unleashing of just this inner energy that's going on in the background. And how that all comes together, and how it just feels. I don't want to say it feels natural, but it feels kind of, it makes sense. If that makes sense, like everything shouldn't really work as well as it does together, but for Death Grips, and especially just this song, I really couldn't imagine it with any other sort of like makings to it. And there's also the fact that hook kind of works as like a snide remark about their kind of dodgy past with playing live. But another like big takeaway from this song is the repurposing that's going on. That's going to be kind of like something that when you look at their entire discography, Death Grips just have this attraction to reusing stuff, but not in a way that some bands can, like, they use the same chords now over and over again. Like, they take their old music and they just transform it in a way where nothing feels single use. There's the recycling going on, which makes them pretty woke. I'm kind of joking a little bit, but also recycle, please. Get a plastic water bottle. Death Grips Next Grips, I believe, is the song that gets used on here, which is off their debut EP. And yeah, just the way it's used, like I say, just kind of like transforms it a lot. There's other samples that they reuse that we'll get into, that I just think do it for me a little bit more. But that's not to say that its usage here is at all kind of like hard to swallow or that. Just as an impressive song, And I was just speaking of like repurposing and repackaging their stuff. When it comes to Bitch Please, we get one of my favourite usages of their previous work ever, and that's reusing the Tachyon video version, which is obviously they could have just went for Tachyon, but they went for this specific bit in the Tachyon music video, where MC Ride's I think it's MC Ride anyways, climbing down the ladder, and there's just sort of like this kind of weird humming noise going on, and then for this song, it's just kind of like repurposed into like a just a nice kind of appealing humming, just that kind of draws you in. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just it just works so well for me. It also does help that Tachyon is one of my favourite songs off Ex-Military, which is the case for most people because it is just such an anthem, but I'd be stupid not to mention it. And if you couldn't guess, this song is mainly about just kind of it's just a braggadocious anthem, but it's done in their own way. It's not them trying to copy anybody. It's them just kind of doing it in their own manner. Extremely violent, extremely well spoken as well, and just kind of an unhingedness to it. Like MC Ray just randomly hits out like a kind of like a Jamaican enunciation to it, which I always just find just really cool. I can't say anything else. Sometimes stuff just is cool, and this is cool. But there's an excerpt that I want to bring up, which is Razor cut that 8mm, make it hurt, which could just kind of get lost under like the kind of like the very rapid fire of his delivery. But there's just so much packed in to this, because there's obviously just how it's like an homage to how classic films were made. It's an homage to the film 8mm, which is about snuff films, which is like the most violent films you can get. If you probably already know that. And just also just kind of like an 8mm, like a knife, like you're pretty much like two of the most kind of like the two most common violent ways. Kind of, it all makes sense. It works, and I just find it just a really good line. We're in the top 5 now, and I know having I've seen footage at number 5 is really not going to go down super well with some people, but this isn't really like a case of like I went off it like I did with The Fever. It's just more that I've started to appreciate other songs a bit more, and it just so happens that it's only getting to be at number 5, but that does not mean that I don't think this song is any less amazing than I did all those years ago when I first heard it. This is them embracing this dance sensibility, and it feels so natural for them, but it isn't them kind of like swapping out stuff like mass appeal, or that. It's definitely a song that you could chuck on at a party and people just, they would need to like really pay much attention to, because it has just got like such a heart and groove to it. But when you listen to it, it's obviously kind of like a sort of story about how you have a phone in your pocket all the time, and that has access to just some of the most horrifying images that you'll see but you'll never experience, but how just kind of like that's just sort of normal to us nowadays, and it isn't so much like a we live in a society kind of thing. It's just something that like I feel like it's something quite interesting to think about. It's not like super deep or anything like that, but the fact that like a big party anthem can also kind of have that meaning to it is cool, and also that kind of like that primal panting that comes up every now and again. It's hard not to just kind of like join in along with it. This only slightly edges out I've seen footage for me, but I do think that my gut feeling is right on Hustle Bones. The start of a motorcycle at the start is just it just works so well and gives it such like a kind of a speed to it. And again, it's just like another great use of sampling and the way it's interpolated throughout. It almost kind of borders a point where like it sounds just like a really dirtied up synth, like it's just been left feeling like just kind of like left to lie in a bath full of just like different horrible things like puke and shit, and it's just like taken out. It's like, okay, we're gonna put this in our song, and I just think that it just does the job every time. Hustle Bones is also home to one of the best hooks on the entire record. It's impossible not to kind of like replay it in your head whenever you hear the words Hustle Bones. You've probably played it in your head like 5 times already. But also kind of just how what that actually even means, like the hustle, also be just the grind, trying to make money, and just the bones, like the product of murdering, and that's probably like what MC Red was hoping to get across whenever he kind of wrote this. But there's also the very real chance that it's just him sort of just like almost kind of like satirizing himself and just being like, oh, I'm making so much money, I'm killing the game, and just to like almost like parody extent I might be reaching there, but I just think even I don't think it's like out with the reign of possibility here. I've always found that like pretty funny, but it's got one of the best hooks on it, which makes it pretty easy to put this at number 4 for me. Nothing quite gives me chills on this album like System Blower does, when kind of backed up by a Vancouver sky train, MC Ray's just kind of like cut off mid-sentence by his just entire system being exploded. It is just cataclysmic. It is cool as fuck, and it just gives the album like that kind of. It's already a bit like an album that you really can't predict too much in your first listen, second, third, fourth listen. And it just gives it like that edge that just makes it just such a treat to come back to every now and again. And no surprise, this is an overtly political track. There's really no denying it. It's literally called System Blower, to blow up a system. There's just so many little bits here about how MC Raid has kind of like painted this picture of a ghastly world, and I think this is just him like reaching that boiling point where he's just gonna break, and he's just not gonna be kind of like told what to do anymore. He's just gonna go full F society, just like bring down everything around him, no matter what that entails. We're fit to burn the house to the ground as soon as the sound gets checked. It's just proof about how confident they are about their music and how it's pretty much like a tool for them, how they're going to use it as a way to just pretty much bring everyone to their knees, especially the powers that be. There's been a bit of an epidemic as of late when it comes to songs in the charts, and even like patrician acts mention or referencing Peter Pan. It's just something that's happened, and all the songs have sucked really, really hard. But when it comes to Lost Boys, it doesn't mention Neverland or anything like that, but it's obviously a reference to the band of kind of misfits, and paints them in a way that makes them out to be these like cyberpunk-esque band of more like savages here that are just baying for blood, and who you just don't want to get on the wrong side of. It kind of follows up that kind of like elite beat agents like militia that I was mentioning, but now it's taken this very like idyllic characters that you'd think of, just like, oh, these wee boys are just away in Neverland and they just never want to grow up, and now it's like you could imagine maybe like this is why they don't want to grow up, because they've got this craving to just fuck shit up all the time, and they're going to continue to do this forever, which is just a really cynical kind of thing to even think about. The more I think about it, and the more that I dig into the lyrics on this, it just becomes one of just like my favourite musical moments of the entire decade. Like, obviously from a lyrical standpoint, but I just find that it's almost as if like it points to MC Raid sort of like the victim of these boys, especially when it comes to the chorus, and he goes, it's such a long way down, and then it kind of echoes on, and that he falls into this like bottomless pit. But it definitely kind of like etches this version of what is usually like a very idyllic fantasy world, like where people never want to leave because it's so great. And I guess it kind of is like quite a good metaphor and kind of like mirror image to how we are kind of led to believe the whole world is great from a young age, and then we kind of figure out what it is like, and it can be the worst thing ever. Just maybe being a bit like simplifying it a little bit there, but like I think making something so great and turning something terrible totally makes sense, and definitely ties into a lot of themes throughout this album, and that's why and it also just sounds really good. It just sounds really, really good, but doesn't sound as good as our winner, which is...
Hey, no ins and outs! You come out, your shit is gone.
Throughout the Money Store, Death Grips they establish quite a few points. There's like a general ethos of like taking older sounds and making them new, pushing themselves a fair bit, but they also have like a group mentality of don't fuck with us, we're gonna fuck with you anyway, we will do whatever it takes to get what we want, and it's quite scary when you think of it like that. And Hacker is just the point where that's you're fucked. It's kind of like the scene in the worst Star Wars movie where all this chaos is going around you and there's literally nothing you can do but kind of like look in astonishment and go Roger, Roger. But yeah, there's really nothing I can really say about this song that I feel like it would do it justice. And there's also kind of like some great sampling on here, especially the M83 Midnight City one, which again is kind of like, it's one of the few kind of like contemporary kind of interpolations of something that I think just kind of it sounds more like a scream of like help, as opposed to one in the original song where it sounds like a scream of joy for like a pure time. It's just not the case here at all. It ends the album on just a great mark. leaving your best till last, really. And every time you listen to this album, you're just thinking to yourself, I cannot wait to get to this point. But everything that I've talked about beforehand is just as good, which is why this is such a great album for a lot of people. I don't think people are overrating it at all, because every song is just astounding to me. At the very least, they are great. And when it comes to Hackers, there's nothing really like it. It's the longest song, and I just think that every second is used well, not a second moment wasted. That's me, guys. That is my ranking of every song off the Money Store. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and let me know what your rankings are down below, what you think of my ranking. And yeah, I'll catch you guys as always. Stay safe. Stay hydrated. It's got a straw. It's pretty cool, isn't it?